So, you're about to head out to the airport. You check the weather, and unfortunately, there's a cloud layer at 900 feet above ground level, IFR. And you just need to break through that pesky small little layer of clouds to get out to the practice area with your instructor. So what do? No problem. We file a VFR-on-top flight plan. Except you don't. That's not what it's called. Today, we're going to go through what that is called and what VFR-on-top actually means. Welcome to the Flight Levels. If punching through that thin low cloud layer on an IFR flight plane is not VFR-on-top, then what is it? Well, newsflash, it's simpler than you think. It's called filing an IFR flight plan and picking it up. It is truly that simple. So, for example, what you can do is file an IFR flight plan with a destination that's in the general direction that you intend to go VFR. The controllers don't care that your intentions are to cancel IFR once you get above the cloud layer. Calling this procedure VFR-on-top just confuses everybody and it makes it awful. When a controller is filing an IFR flight plan in your behalf on the fly, they screw it up in so many ways. They never get your aircraft type exactly right. They definitely don't have your contact info in case you crash, and so many other horrible things. So that's why you need to file a regular IFR flight plan. You're going to pick up your clearance just like any other IFR flight plan, depart just like any other IFR flight plan, and then once you get at least 1,000 feet above the clouds, because that's the required cloud clearance you need, you're just going to tell the controller their favorite phrase in the world, which is, approach, we're canceling IFR. The controller loves to hear that. They don't care that your intentions were to do this the whole time. It doesn't matter. This way, with an actual honest-to-God IFR flight plane, they have the color of your aircraft, your contact information. Everything just works a whole lot better. If you're a pilot working on your private, instrument, or commercial ratings, be sure to check out checkride.flight-levels.com, where you can practice taking a mock oral check ride with an AI-powered DPE. You go through all of the sections in the ACS of your check ride and have the examiner question your knowledge on each section. So this leads us to the next part. Well, if punching through that cloud layer on departure is just an IFR clearance, then what is VFR-on-top? VFR-on-top is something you can request from your en-route controller when you are already flying airborne on an IFR flight plan. So on a normal IFR flight plan, you are assigned a single altitude. And usually the controller is very willing to accommodate any changes in that altitude that you might need. However, due to airspace restrictions, other traffic, they may not be able to accommodate. And sometimes you can be stuck in the soup. And if you have a means of not being in the soup, you generally want to take that option of not being in the soup. So an option is to request VFR-on-top. And this is a little bit of a hybrid clearance where you are still on an IFR clearance and you must remain on the lateral path of the route that you were cleared on. However, you now must maintain VFR cloud clearance and visibility as if you were VFR. So let's say you're on route to your destination and you're in the soup and you say, hey, center, I'd like to climb to get VFR-on-top. I'd be like, no problem. November 1, 2, 3, climb to and report reaching VFR-on-top. If not on top by 10,000, maintain 10,000 and advise. The reason this phraseology is the way it is you need to be on that normal IFR clearance until you can be in a spot where you can maintain those cloud clearance requirements. So maybe in this example, there's some other traffic at 11,000 feet that they cannot get you in conflict with. So hopefully between your current altitude and 10,000, you can break out of the clouds and find an altitude that provides you with not being in the clouds, which is great. Another thing you have to comply with is you have to be correct altitude for direction of flight using VFR altitudes. So if you are flying essentially westbound, you need to be at even thousands plus 500, eastbound odd thousands plus 500 feet. Now, one controversial part about picking your altitude, up until recently, the controllers could care less about what altitude you were at, regardless of terrain. Now, technically, since you are on an IFR clearance, you do need to comply with FAR 91.177, paragraph A, paragraph 2, which means that you need to be at least 2,000 feet above the highest obstacle within 4 miles in mountainous terrain, or just 1,000 feet in non-mountainous terrain. But deciding what that altitude was totally up to you. And that was great because the minimum IFR altitudes that controllers use can be excessively restrictive. They are large polygons that do not account for what might be wide valleys where you could comply with your minimum IFR altitude on your own. So recently, FAA management has made the change where controllers are now not allowing VFR-on-top clearances to exist at altitudes lower than the controller's minimum IFR altitude. And that is a real shame, and I personally feel that is a bit of an overreach on the part of the FAA. Because now that really eliminates a lot of the whole perk of VFR-on-top clearances. It's kind of going away, which I think is too bad. But at any rate, that is what VFR-on-top actually means. So the next time yourself or you and your instructor need to punch through a cloud layer just to get out of the airport area to go VFR, do not just call up the tower and say, can we get a VFR-on-top clearance? Quit being lazy. Get out your iPad and just file an IFR flight plan. Once you get above the cloud layer and maintain your required cloud clearance, just say cancel IFR. The controller will love you and everything will be much better. Thanks for watching. Stick around and find some more videos all about flying in the National Airspace System from Joe's perspective as both an air traffic controller and a flight instructor. We'll see you then.